During the 1910s, German expressionist films emerged as an artistic genre and movement born from isolation, fears, and the desires of the era. German expressionist filmmakers began rejecting cinematic realism and began to visually distort depictions of reality to express dramatic interpretations of the human condition. By the 1920s, European filmmakers began experimenting with the absurd and wild aesthetics of German cinema, fabricating the most influential films such as Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Metropolis. These expressionist films have influenced many important filmmakers of the 20th century, including Tim Burton. A notable example that will be explored is his film Sleepy Hollow, developed alongside his creative team, cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezki and editor Chris Lebenson. German expressionism is broadly defined as the rejection of Western conventions and the depiction of reality that is widely distorted for emotional effect. This kind of cinema is renowned for its use of quirky lighting, use of shadows, exaggerated acting styles, highly stylized sets, and utilizes aspects of the horror genre and the supernatural. These elements are all notable in Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. Burton's 1999 film Sleepy Hollow is an adaptation of Washington Irving's Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Following the story of Constable Ichabod Crane, Burton directs a story about the supernatural headless horseman in the town of Sleepy Hollow. The intent for Sleepy Hollow was to fashion a gothic, heavily stylized, and artificial atmosphere that would pay homage to some of Burton's favorite horror movies, such as the Hammer films and Mario Bava's Black Sunday, a Hollywood film inspired by German Expressionism. Burton's Expressionist-inspired mise-en-scene in Sleepy Hollow was produced through the collaboration with Mexican cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezki. Chiaroscuro lighting is a German expressionist technique that enhances the contrast between light and shadow. To emphasize the shadows and contrast the Sleepy Hollow's image, Burton and Lubezki worked together to test which process would desaturate the colors in a way that matched their vision most to generate its out-of-world atmosphere. Both creators came with the agreement to enhance the film's color through the Deluxe Laboratories color contrast enhancement process to further strike a proper balance between pictorialism and realism. Lubezki constructed a lighting scheme that did not adhere to cinematography's general rule of motivated sources. Since Sleepy Hollow is a fantastical tale, Lubezki aimed to position light in a scene so you couldn't tell where the light was coming from. Inspired by the Hammer films that were not always perfectly lit, this choice of lighting produces eerie shadows, hiding elements within the frame to generate a world of unease and horror through the use of light cranes and smoke to both falsify a sky on the stage sets and to match the unrealistic look on exterior locations. The finished film blurs the constructed reality. German expressionist cinema expressed warped perspectives of the world through distorted shapes and lines in set design. Sleepy Hollow takes a formless approach to cinema and uses highly stylized sets to construct the fantastical reality in which the characters live in. Production designer for Sleepy Hollow, Rick Heinrichs, describes the film's architectural style as colonial expressionism. The angular trees, distorted and quirky shapes in buildings, windows, and objects in Sleepy Hollow strike resemblances to the expressionist film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Lubezki recalls Burton saying he does not want the movie to look completely realistic and naturalistic, thus making the movie on very stylized sets allowed the two creators to control the amount of reality in the movie. Lubezki and Burton both heavily collaborated to generate the film's gothic, supernatural look and atmosphere. To produce the finished film, editor Chris Lebenson was employed to edit the film. Lebenson describes his approach to editing as getting the director's vision realized, and to do so, he puts himself in the place of a viewer. Sleepy Hollow was the fourth film Lebenson and Burton have collaborated on. Lebenson comments on how Tim Burton does not micromanage in the editing ring and has a similar approach to critiquing during the edit. Burton keeps a broad view of the movie and views it as an audience member would. Le Benson comments that Burton is very artistic and intuitive, however, is not always communicative. However, the film speaks to him, and he believes his editing choices speak to Burton. He approaches an edit by using his instincts first, then goes back to decide on which takes looks the best and are performed the best. Burton's flamboyant style heavily draws inspiration from German expressionist cinema and is not only evident in Sleepy Hollow, but in all his films. Although he is evidently influenced by classics such as The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Metropolis, he has developed and established his own style that has been described as Burton-esque, a gothic, whimsical, strange, and bursting with detail aesthetic that can be positioned as more of a modernized version of German expressionism. Sleepy Hollow and its expressionist design were part of director Tim Burton's vision for the tale, all of which were brought to the screen through collaboration with his creative team, cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezki and editor Chris Le Benson. Through the collaboration between Tim Burton, Emmanuel Lubezki, and Chris Le Benson, Sleepy Hollow's finished product is riddled with the impact of German expressionist cinema, whether it be through the use of lighting and set design or the supernatural story elements. Sleepy Hollow is a formalist modern revision of German expressionism.